if you consistently experience like disappointment or something like that in this particular area with the same person, you have to start asking yourself, like, what's my part?
Hi.
Welcome to Inner Archaeology. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Emily, and we're so glad you're tuning in.
Yes. And you can listen to us everywhere there are podcasts, including on YouTube, where you can see us, and you can go to innerarchaeology.tv.
And we also have a Patreon. We have a Patreon that has a bunch of really great, like the collection of episodes we have on there is so good. And you can go,
hilarious.
They're hysterical. So if you like when we get like all goofy or start talking about like, I don't know, R-rated stuff, it's on there. And you can subscribe for $5 a month and have access to all of that. And you get 2 episodes a month. Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of decided that we were going to keep going with what we talked about on last episode. We had like another idea that came up, right? You want to give
and it kind of is like unfolding in this really beautiful way. We're just talking about like different like generational evolution and how when you like experience something in your own childhood, you have to make sense of that or normalize it in some way just to exist. And then you grow up and you parent your own kids and you do the best that you can do. And then those kids grow up and they have the audacity to parent their children in a different way. And that brings up a whole lot of shit. Like that's got to bring up stuff that's like not only addressing how you were a parent, you know, like if I'm talking about our parents' generation, but how you were parented. And there's so much that goes on under the subconscious. And when somebody is like actively doing something differently and especially parenting differently, and you observe that, you are subconsciously going to be evaluating like your own childhood. And a lot of times that's like so triggering because that makes you ask the question of like, oh, maybe that means that what I experienced wasn't okay. And I don't know if I'm ready to like look at that, or like there's a system at play that prevents me from looking at that. And so instead it might be triggers or whatever. And it's just like a lot, you know? And so that kind of spun out into this idea. And we like talking about like generational things. And I think it's such an important thing to talk about as we like, I've got kids, you have one in your belly, like it's happening. We're like being parents, you know? Yeah. And I think it's like really important to sort this out because there is going to be a day where our kids are grown and I want to be able to be there, like when they're working through their stuff. So this idea that kind of unfolded out of that is that I've been thinking a lot about is it seems like people kind of a generalization, but can fall into 2 camps. And one camp around like experiencing like pain or trauma or hardship. One camp is I went through something really hard and really painful and I survived and I'm okay and I'm maybe better for it. And that means like you should have to go through that too. And
or
kind of like prove
you'll
yourself.
be okay and there's a lack of empathy.
You'll be fine. You have nothing to complain about. Exactly. And then there's another school of thought, which I think is the evolution, hopefully, that maybe we're moving towards in consciousness, but is that I went through something really hard and painful. And because I went through that, that means like you don't have to go through that. I can create an environment and I can give you permission to experience something better. And you don't have to prove your validity to me by like experiencing the same pain that I experienced.
I feel like there's a third option though, because sometimes there's going to be something that like it just ends up in, right? And it's not under your control. And so then the third option is like seeing them go through that pain and staying in touch with the empathy of the version of you that felt like at the beginning of that, when it was like real raw and tender. Because I'm just like this one, because we just got out of talking about mostly like parent-child relationships. I'm also now thinking about, I don't know, just like recently with like launching a new program, and I was like, you're fine, people will sign up for it. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, this is scary. It's my first time launching. And I was like, it's fine. And I was like, damn, I'm doing that thing where it's like, there's just like kind of a lack of empathy. I was like, it's fine. You're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It'll be great. And it actually reminds me, it was really stuck with me because one of my therapists once told me that apparently, like statistically, like studies have shown that if somebody goes through an experience, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, actually, they are less likely to have empathy for people going through the same experience
Mm-hmm.
because it is of the tendency to be like, well, I survived it and you're going to be just fine. I'm okay. So you're going to be just fine. Like, suck it up. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of skipping steps, right? Because they're not
Yeah.
there yet and they don't know that. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then also going back to the like the program thing. And then I like 2 weeks later launched a program and I had the
And you're
same
like,
thing.
wait.
And I like came
Wait,
to
I'm
you and
freaking
I was
out.
like, I'm just freaking out a little bit. Like, what if nobody signs up? And you were like,
I was like,
sounds
I know,
familiar.
right? I know.
You were like,
It's so
honestly,
funny.
you were like laughing at me. You were like, this is kind of
It
great
was
to
so
just see
funny.
you struggle through this because you were
But
like,
I was like, it's like powerful. Like that's like a real feeling. And it doesn't matter like how many successful like stuff you have under your belt. It's like scary putting yourself out there in any
always,
way. You know, it always is.
always.
Always. And I think it's
Yes.
just a matter of like, I think the trick is to not expect that that's not going to happen. Because when you expect it's
Yeah.
not going to happen,
Yes.
then you get blindsided by it. But if you just expect, okay, I'm going to be really nervous, I'm probably going to freak out like right after I launch this
Yeah.
thing, then you're kind of
Yes.
like, okay, I'm ready for it when it comes. But I think that's a good point to make, that there is like a level of like empathy that you can bring into when you are witnessing somebody else go through something that you've like gone through similarly. But I think that this like, and like to support them and love them. But I think that there's this almost this way of thinking is more like, I think it's really like about like how you actively treat people.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to, I think as humans, is we either repeat what we experience or we can pendulate away from it with the hopes to probably find some equilibrium. But I think like, you know, say like somebody like mistreated you in a relationship and then you turned around and you are mistreating other people in relationships, and it's all like linked together in this very like subconscious way, but it's almost like justified because like I went through this pain, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
you get to go through it too, you know.
Yeah. I think that there are times when a situation arises and your gut reaction, your just like subconscious move, is not the best version of yourself, right? And I think that really what is most important is that you make a choice. Because it's okay. I kind of think I'm starting to like really think that it's okay. It would be great if that like just didn't happen at all, right? But I think it's kind of okay if like your first gut reaction is kind of like not the nicest and then you're like, that's not how I'm trying to show up in this world, right? I'm trying to be better and I'm trying to I don't know, as an example might be like somebody's like what we're talking about, like somebody's going through something and you hear it and like and you just kind of are like that's not like you just don't have empathy for it because you already went through it and like they should like maybe you even have a part of you that's like yeah you should like this is part of the human, this is just life, man, you should
Mm-hmm.
experience this too.
Right.
But it's like what you do with those thoughts ultimately, right? Like, is that how you want
Mm-hmm.
to show up? Or do you want to be like, okay, I'm going to try and tap into the empathy that I can like find for the version of me that didn't know it was going to be okay. And then impart
Mm-hmm.
that on this person. A small example, it's not it's not like a big dramatic one, but it's like I do a live Q&A for my students, right? And I've been doing it for 4 years. And the questions are wonderful most of the time. Some very often though, there's a lot of questions that are like just overthinking, stressing out because it's the beginning of their journey and they're freaking out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
my part of that journey was like almost like 10 years ago. And so I have to make
Uh-huh.
a active choice to tap into just like the version of me that was freaking out so that I can have empathy for them. But it's like so easy. It's been so many years, right? For me, it'd be so easy to
Mm-hmm.
be like, ugh, you guys, it's fine. You're gonna be fine. And
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, sometimes I probably sound like that a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
actually had a student. email me and say that I felt on one of them like impatient, and I was like, I'm really like sorry and thank you for calling me out because that's not how I want to show
Yeah.
up on those. But I'm also
Aw.
human and I do it every single Wednesday. And so are there days
Yeah.
where I'm feeling impatient? Probably. I'm sorry, but thank you.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like a good
Yeah.
reminder for me to like, okay, you gotta like tap into, and anytime I do that, I actually really, I enjoy doing them because I'm like, I remember what
Mhm.
that feels like. But it
Mhm.
is a conscious like thing that I have to keep like reminding myself to go back to, because it's kind of easy to be like, you're overthinking it. It's fine. Like
Mhm.
as I
Mhm.
did with you. Um and so I don't know.
You weren't
I think
that
it's like
bad.
I know. I just like but this is
It made
I
me
think it's
laugh. It actually was like, yeah.
go ahead.
No, I just want to like say, like, I know you're making like a caricature out of it, but it actually was like helpful for me just in our relationship because I trust you so much. I was able to be like, okay. And I was able to kind of like just like let it go and move through it, which was nice because I really didn't have the energy to
Well,
spend freaking
I
out
will
on
say,
that.
yeah, going down that, I think that part of where it came from, actually, like truly, is that you had so much else going on in your life. I was like, this is not where we're gonna get stressed out. There's no
Yeah,
time and
I just like
energy for
couldn't.
that.
It's true.
So I think I
It's
was trying to
true.
like tough love you away from just like even
Mhm.
going down that line of thinking. But then I obviously felt a
Yeah.
little guilty for it because that's why I keep making fun of it.
I think it made me laugh and I liked it. And then it was funny to have it loop back around and then we had a good laugh about it. So, it was
Yeah.
good.
But I think so that's the trick here, right? Ultimately, I think the trick is like recognizing everything we're talking about and then making a choice. Cuz I don't think that I don't know, only perfect people are going to be able to like automatically go to that like perfectly
Oh
empathetic
yeah.
self every single time. Like you're going to have times where you have like no patience for someone cuz you're like it's going to be okay. Like
Totally.
and it's
Yeah.
about making the choice, right? I don't know.
Mhm.
That's my
Yeah, and
theory.
I do think I think that like if you were to like like extrapolate this out into almost like maybe in talking in like the generational thing that we were talking about on the last episode,
Mm-hmm.
but like a parent like providing for a child in a way that they were never provided for, there is like I think it is very like understandable and kind of like normal for there to be some levels of almost like resentment that comes out
Mm-hmm.
like towards their own children because and what that is I think it's your your own inner child that's like I didn't have my needs met and then
Mm-hmm.
here's these brats that have that like have everything that they could ever want and they're still complaining about stuff but in that like you in because that's all these children know like this is their reality they didn't have to struggle to like have food on the table for instance right
Mm-hmm.
and like you had to struggle like you had that struggle as a child and then like you're looking at your kids who have the, like who are like wasting food and throwing it in the trash and you're fucking triggered as fuck and you're jumping down their throat and your kids are like what's happening because this is like the only reality that they know is like having enough
Yeah.
and so but like it creates this like interesting dynamic and there can be this like this element of I think like resentment when somebody who has gone through some like hardships witnesses somebody else who maybe is like having it quote unquote easier
Mm-hmm.
and maybe having like a lack of respect or I don't know understanding there's like layers in there I think that are really interesting and make a lot of sense like if they're all operating on like a subconscious layer like a level it makes a lot of sense that that's all there and it's about like how do you start pulling that up and really like unpacking and looking at huh
Mm-hmm.
like there's
Yeah.
a lot of areas in me that I'm, experiencing pain still, residual pain maybe.
Yeah. I think though with our parents' generation, like, I don't know. It's gonna sound really like dark, but I'm like, I don't even think for the most part, I don't think they're thinking about these things. So they're just like, you have it better than I did. What's wrong with you? And it's like, I don't know. It takes
Yeah.
like a serious like level of like conscious awareness to even get to a
Mhm.
place where you're like, do I want to have more empathy for this person? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but I'm just like, I don't think they're
Pessimistic.
thinking like that.
No,
Pessimistic
I think you're,
things.
yeah,
I just
I
am
don't
like, they're not
necessarily
thinking
think that
about it. So
that's,
I'm like, I'm like, fuck them. No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a thing that plays out. And so actually what I'm really interested in and would love to talk about next is like, what do you do to be on the receiving end of that and dealing with it? Like, for example, how did you
right.
deal
I
with
think that's the
me
only thing
when
to
I
do.
just was like lacked no empathy for your long
It
shit?
made me laugh. Well, like I think our relationship is like different because we have so much trust in each
I
other
know.
that
Yeah.
it made me laugh, and it actually gave me permission to like, also because like I really like looking at all that stuff inside me. It gave me permission to just kind of bypass, which I've been really curious if you can kind of just be like, okay, can I just like skip the imposter phase, like the imposter syndrome
Mm.
phase? And I kind of did, and which was really interesting, and it was kind of like an experiment, and I liked it, and it was nice to just kind of be like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but it only, I was only able to do that because I really really trusted you, and you were like you were like guiding me kind of through this like process that I was doing. And so it was like a kind of a fun experiment that I really enjoyed. It made me laugh, and like yeah, you could have been like, oh, that makes so much sense that you're experiencing giving me all, but like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like we're best friends because you have like, I can do that for myself, but like, you give me this, like, you give me this, I know you say it's like tough love, but how I look at it is that you have confidence in my abilities, and that you see it and maybe I can't
Mm.
see it. And I
Mm-hmm.
trust that you're not like, you're not lying to me when you say you're
Mm-hmm.
confident in my ability to do this. And that's what I was like, that's what I took away from that, you know, is just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I might not feel very capable, but my best friend in the whole world believes that I am, and she's like an expert at this. And so like, I'm just going to go ahead and like trust that and like move forward, and it was fine. Everything was fine. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I think it was like it, and then it was so funny to like loop back through when you were experiencing it, and we just got to laugh about how like it, I think it's just a step, it's a step you have to take when you do something new, is you experience like fear of failure. I think it's just part of it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, that's good because I'm like, I'm glad. Maybe I'll stop beating
There's
myself
that.
up for it. That was nice to hear. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
the way you described like how you actually perceive what I've been calling like tough love. I don't know, that felt nice. But okay, so but for instances when it's not you and me, and there's someone who
Right.
is like doesn't have that, like when you're on the receiving end of it, because that's the thing, is I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We all probably participate in it. I think it's a little bit easier to for us to identify it and then work on like tapping back into that empathy and like not being the way, have that be the way that you're showing up. But then like alternatively, like what do you do when you're on the receiving end of that? Just don't get advice from that
That's
person.
tricky. Yeah, I mean,
Just make
that's the
them, they're
like,
not the safe place.
I mean, maybe like, or if they are like on autopilot, and it is a relationship in which you can have an ask, and you can say, what I really need from you right now is for you to
Mm,
listen to me, and
mm-hmm,
to help me feel like I'm like not crazy, but not to fix this, you know, or not to
mm-hmm,
like whatever. Like if you're aware of yourself enough and aware of like what your need is enough to be able to ask, like that could be it. But I do think that there is like, there's just this, we crave to have that empathy from people, I think, who, and this is something that's been coming up kind of thematically in my life and in people that I work with, when there's like a desire maybe to be like loved or seen, or have somebody give you empathy or really hold space for you in a way that would mean a lot for you, and somebody is like craving that from somebody, from like a person in their life, and then feeling really disappointed when they don't get that. And I've had these conversations where I've asked people, I'm like, is this person, are they behaving in the way that they've told you that they are? Like, this is who they are. Are they
mm-hmm.
behaving in a way that is in alignment? And are the, is the desire you have, is good and normal. And like, of course you want that from this person, but
Mm-hmm.
are you expecting them to be able to show up for you in a way that they have never given you any
Mm.
reason to believe that they can? And then are you creating like a lot of pain for yourself? And this is so hard, it's so hard. And then, but then my question is like, what relationships do you bring that up? And do you say, hey, I need you to do better for me? Like, I just need you to be
Mm-hmm.
better for me in this relationship. And I need you to like show up. Or then like the alternative is just like accepting them, like radical acceptance and creating boundaries and trying not to have like unreasonable expectations on people. I don't know. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know. How
Mm-hmm.
do you differentiate? Like, when do you do which one?
Mm-hmm.
Because I tend to fall into the category of like, let's try to grow and let's try to communicate, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
something I feel like I've learned from you. Or there's some relationships that it's just like,
That's not gonna
that's
happen.
not it's not gonna
Yeah, they're not
happen.
ready. They're not ready, and they don't
Yeah.
want it.
And I'm like, but what if
But I
you
do
say it
think it's
like
worth
this?
trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think it's
Yeah.
worth trying. I don't know, but for
Yeah.
me, like I think you're right. For me, a big part is like honestly, like looking at that and being well, it kind of comes back to a question I ask myself all the time, which is like, what's my part in this? And in that instance, with like if you consistently experience like disappointment or something like that in this particular area with the same person, you have to start asking yourself like, what's my part? And your part is your
Mm,
generally your expectations that something's going to be different.
right. Mm,
And then the question kind of, then there's the next like line of questioning. Well, is this somebody who I like want in my life? Is this somebody who but usually more simply than that, why am I going to this person for this particular thing? Obviously, they're
mm,
not the best person to get this like thing from. And so who else can I like go to um for whatever it is I'm looking for? And sometimes that's
yeah.
yourself,
I mean, this
sometimes
is
that's
huge,
like
actually.
another
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
To
That's the
be
like line
connected
of like
enough.
questioning.
Yes,
Mhm.
this is so good, because like to be connected enough to like yourself and like what the need is there, to be able to like really be like, okay, go like having a need and going to somebody who can't meet that need and then getting your feelings hurt. That's exhausting. We do this all the time, but like being able to ask. And actually I recently like went through something kind of like this, where I had like an insecurity, and I wanted
Oh yeah.
like,
Yeah.
remember, I had, and I'm gonna be vague about this, but I had an insecurity, and I felt this like urge to be validated by like a specific person in relationship to the insecurity. But I kind of like I like went through this exactly what you're talking about. Like, is this like what I need to do? And it probably would have been fine or whatever. But I ended up asking my questions and like coming down all the way to like, I think I can validate myself in this circumstance. And I think I can just like decide to feel okay with this and like move forward like confidently. And that's what I ended up doing. And I felt fucking awesome. It like felt so
Yeah, that was
empowering
really cool to
to meet
witness.
that need in myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool to witness.
Mhm.
That was I wish you could share the example, but it was a little like that was a little out there. Not out there, but like very vulnerable.
Yeah.
That feels like a Patreon episode.
That'll be
Um
a Patreon episode.
because I think actually honestly a lot of people experience that. Okay, we gotta stop talking about it vaguely. Okay. Yeah.
Moving
That was really
on.
cool to that was really cool to
Mhm.
witness in you because well, I also want to say like what was really interesting about that is you did get the validation from that person for that particular thing once, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then you had a second time where you were like, do I really want to keep going back and like needing validation in this area from this person? Because
Yeah. That's
he
right.
gave it
Mhm.
to you. He was like validated you
Mhm.
in that way, and you had a
Mhm.
chance to kind of like loop back through and do the same thing, or reassure
Mhm.
yourself and be like, he gave me the validation. I can trust that
I don't need, yeah.
validation, and
Yeah.
now I need to like meet it within myself. And that was really cool
Right.
to watch.
And I think that that's where I think I actually
How you
like
chose that.
healed. Yeah, like I think that was actually like the healing that I needed, because now I don't really feel that like I feel
Hmm.
calm in that area, and because I think when we are like seeking external validation from something that really you need internal validation from, you
Yeah.
can become almost like a dependent. Like you're dependent on like constant reassurance, right? But when you're able to like reassure yourself and validate yourself, you can calm down because you can just kind of like trust yourself that you're like not fucking with yourself, and like you could just, that can be enough instead of like needing a constant stream of like valid. And this is something that I dealt with in a big way. Like I really like struggled with needing external validation for a long time, you know, and it's been a very conscious practice of like integrating that back within myself and like giving it to myself, which is like could be a whole other topic.
Dude, totally. Yeah, this is something that I think is good to both look for, like, in how we're going about it, because how we have tendencies to, like, not have empathy for people when they go through struggles. And honestly, for me, it kind of was reassuring to hear that that's, like, the tendency across the board in a weird way, because it made me, like, not a bad person when it, like, kind of comes up. I was like, okay, this is just, like, for some weird reason, like, what we do on, like, for some psychological reason. And sometimes that can just kind of help you, I don't know, just make it a little less dramatic and be like, okay, for me, this is one of the things I love about psychology, is because sometimes you can just like read about a psychological tendency that we have as people and then be like, this is a thing. It's an observed thing. And now I am going to make a conscious choice to like try not to participate in it and be aware of it, right? I mean, it can be applied to so many things, like this, not having as much empathy for people when they're going through a struggle you've already like gone through and been okay from, you know, confirmation bias, how we tend to just like find things that like confirm our beliefs. It's like once you know that's a thing, you can start looking for it, right? Negativity bias, knowing that we tend to like hyper focus on the like one negative comment someone said and like just dismiss all the positive stuff.
Totally.
I'm just like, these are the things that I try to keep like top of mind, to remind myself that it's just like what I tend to do because I'm a freaking human, man. And when I can keep it top of mind, it's like so much easier to like see. And that's one of the reasons I love these conversations, right? It's like when you're having conversations like these, then you get a little glimpse into like a little blind spot that you had and you get a chance to course correct. Kind of like what we talked in the last episode with you and Evie, right? Like, it's just being a human, and you have like you have a little spot that you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like focus on this, and that's it. It can be, I don't know, it can be like as simple as that sometimes. I think sometimes we make it real dramatic.
Especially when you're attaching, like when you attach like your sense of self or identity or self-worth to like a mistake, like, and I think that's why when you like your therapist told you this like study, this psychological study, it was so relieving, because it is relieving to not think of like, oh, I'm a fucking asshole, you know, or like,
or the people in my lives are assholes, right? Like it's just like, this is the human
really
tendency.
over identifying, that you can just be like, oh, okay, this is like something that most people like, normalizing like it being human, that brings levity into it, makes it not as heavy. And then which is when things aren't as heavy, it's easier then to be curious, so that you can find areas to course correct and do stuff like that. It's really hard to be curious when things are really heavy. That might be even another topic to talk about, because like that, it's almost like curiosity can exist when you bring levity into situations.
But but also I think on the flip side, like being curious can like bring levity to the situation. You know what I mean? It's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know, curiosity or like seriousness. I don't know. I've been just curiosity often brings like playfulness too, like kind of naturally, which is something that I've experienced, and bringing playfulness to situations has been like
so important.
Oh my God. So
totally.
I don't know. All of that would be a good one. That's the next one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Until next time, guys. Thanks for being here. We love you.
All right. Bye-bye.